I had written a book about wine, which unexpectedly became a bestseller. The timing was perfect. It was the first book about California wines, and it was 1971 when California wines were first available across the country. It turned out to be the perfect training to write about tea. Both are products of the soil they come from, the climate they grow in, and then the human factor. What you do with the grape or the tea leaf after you remove it from the plant. In my lifetime, we have become a wine-consuming society, which we were not before. And yet today you can get a fairly good bottle of wine in any state in the Union, and you can pay a fair price for it. And nobody's going to think that you're putting on airs if you know something about it. And as a matter of fact, there is no cowboy in California who couldn't ask for a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon and not only know what he wants, but know how to pronounce it. So why is it impossible that his grandson might be able to ask for Tea Kuan Yin or Da Hong Pao? The most expensive tea ever sold was from that Da Hong Pao bush, and it brought something over $250,000 for a pound of tea leaf. No luxury is cheaper than tea. A pound of tea that costs $600, an oolong like this, for example, would still yield approximately 600 cups. So that would be about the price of Coca-Cola. You know, $1 a cup for one of the world's greatest handmade works of art. We wouldn't raise an eyebrow to hear that someone had paid $600 for a single bottle of wine. My conviction is that we as a people are going to be a lot healthier and a lot less quarrelsome, you see, if we do start to drink a lot more tea. So that's my hope. Pass your cup. The same way I would tell someone to start learning about lovemaking, let's say, privately, discreetly, and with devotion and feeling. The most distinguished tea friend with whom I have had tea was Sen Soshitsu the 15th. He was the 15th generation descendant of the man who formalized what today we call Japanese tea ceremony, cha-no-yu. When he was a young man, Japan and America were at war, he was drafted and he was given the task of preparing tea on aircraft carriers for the kamikaze pilots. He would prepare tea and share tea with the young man his own age across the table from him as we were across the table from one another. And after drinking the tea, the other young man would stand up and tie the ceremonial white scarf around his throat and go get in his airplane to kill himself. So when I had dinner, but first tea, with this very old but very elegant Japanese tea statesman and offspring of one of the most distinguished families in all the world's tea culture. It was not to be forgotten. What I do is I put just a splash of water on that leaf. Now bring it to your nose. That is green tea. We just woke it up. I try to pour to one side so as to set up a swirl. And that allows all the leaf to be exposed to the water.
And so the lid becomes a stirring device.
That's
too.
right. The lid you use to stir it, and you see this is water that's about 160 degrees.
And the lid is also, as you mentioned earlier, where you're also getting the fragrance.
That's right. And so then, Meredith, place the lid so that it leaves just a hairline crack. Use both hands.
Delicious.
Isn't that something? It's grassy, isn't it? It's faintly herbaceous.
And faintly is the word I would use because it's very delicate to me.
Yes, it is. Now, this tea is coming to the end of its days. Green tea has no keeping quality.
Oh.
And it's almost a year old now, which is rather elderly for a green tea. It doesn't go bad. It just becomes a kind of ghost of itself, you see. So, of course, you could, you see, pour your tea into a separate,
Okay.
No, I'll do it. A coffee house, coffee aromas are going to kill any tea aromas, which are far more delicate, you see, than coffee. You wouldn't even enjoy the very best kinds of tea. Is this to say that you can't get pretty good tea in a Starbucks or a Pete's? Yes, you can, especially Pete's. I never go to Starbucks. I don't know about them. Of course I use tea bags. When we travel, it is the first line of self-defense. This is still a tea-ignorant country where if you don't carry your own tea, you're going to have to do without tea a lot of times. Dust is a byproduct of manufacturing leaf, and I'm afraid the very basis of the tea bag business. If the dust comes from good tea, it'll be good dust. It's just not going to make tea as well as if it were whole leaf. Tea ages more quickly the smaller the container. And so who knows how long that package of Fortnum and Mason has been in transit to the shop where you bought it. You could buy much fresher tea, almost always, by just going to an American purveyor and having him package it for you right there. Water is critical to tea quality. The total dissolved solids in the water will kill all the aroma and taste, not only of tea, but coffee, soups, or anything that you are cooking. All you have to do is put it through a Brita filter, for instance, to remove the chlorine, and you're in business. I just went to a tea conference in Salt Lake City where there was no difference from one tea to the next because the water killed it. Why, I always ask myself, would anybody want raspberry or pomegranate or some of these flavors added to what may have been humble but was perfectly good tea? And now I see. Because in a place like Salt Lake City, where the water is going to kill the tea anyway, it's the flavoring that's all you're going to get.